Hello and welcome to Bendy, a podcast about being flexible and all of the ways that means. Thanks for joining us. My name is Andy Young, and I'm one of your grappling, clashing hosts. Joining me, as always, is our other grappling and clashing host, Beth Martin. Beth, a pleasure as always. What's the crack?
The crack. I have a burp stuck in my throat
Oh,
real
do it.
quick.
Let's get it out.
No. So
Mm.
say the words again that you just read. Grappling.
Grappling
I like it.
and clashing,
Clashing.
because, like,
It's like we're we're titans.
very much so. I mean, like, and they're very much the subjects we're talking about today are Titans all,
It's
and
true.
excellent examples of humanity to a man.
So what's the crack? I had a friend. Okay, I had these are like random things, but I
Hmm.
had a friend from San Francisco come and stay, and she said something to me that it
Uh-huh.
that hit me so hard in the right spot of like, oh, this is a phrase I'm going to start using all the time. She said, I've done nothing and I'm all out of ideas.
I love it. It's perfect.
So I'm like applying this to my life and like always.
I was gonna say, can relate.
I know. It's like the perfect phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it like,
So
or kind of reminds me of, I just saw there's like a meme and it's a car like driving along, but like and then it sees a turning and it just kind of is trying to skid onto the turning. And it's like, it's often two examples, which is like, the thing that I should be doing, the thing that I want to be doing. And oftentimes, let's say the car's gone off into the worst kind of choice, or the more sort of like irrational choice. Um, but the one that I saw was the thing that I want to do. The other one was the thing that I need to do. And the car, instead of going in either direction, was just crashing into the middle. And I was like,
right.
yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
It's hot here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually
It's
pretty
like
hot here too. I mean,
it's
like hot for
night.
our terms.
So I'm gonna look in my mind garden for Fahrenheit versus Celsius.
Hmm.
First I have to figure out how to spell Fahrenheit, but it's like 91. It was 100 the other day.
Yikes. Yeah,
And it went
okay.
from like 80 to dying
Yeah.
within a day. So it's just hot.
Yeah,
My
like
mind garden isn't working. So
so it's 91's about 32, which is very hot. It would
okay, yeah.
it would maybe get to 30 on a very, very rare occasion here. But like we were having like my friend in New Jersey was like making fun of us. Yes, I was gonna say me, but us, everybody in the UK was making fun of all
Right.
of you if you're listening. And it was like a article he saw, and it was like Britain is bracing itself for a 26-degree heat wave, and that's 26 degrees, what, like 78, which I know is like nothing for you. It's just an average hot day.
That's like winter.
Yeah. So that's our
That's
heat
winter
wave.
weather.
We have to brace ourselves. Ah, that's kind of right. But like, it has been, I don't know what temperature it has been today, but it has been quite muggy here, and like, kind of a bit oppressively hot. I
Do you guys have
haven't
mosquitoes?
we didn't for a long time, but we have started getting them in recent years. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I think
Like
there's
came
only
over
like,
on some boat.
yeah. There's only one country in the world that doesn't have them, and I think it's Iceland, I think.
Have we talked about this
Yeah, I think we
before?
have. Yeah.
Damn it, we need an answer. All
I'm near
right.
certain it's Iceland. I'm near positive. Um, yeah, like, so like, I mean, it's, as I say, it's I haven't been out much. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So it has been quite sunny over the past few days. Um, and I've just been enjoying it from the comfort of my sofa, looking at it through the window.
Let's pass the torch to you, my friend. What's going on? What's the crack?
Okay, so, and I've been
Why
talking about,
can't you leave your house
why
right
can't you leave your
now?
house? So the police arrived at my door. No. Um, um,
You're Ant-Man.
yeah, house arrest. Yeah, I do. I've got like an ankle bracelet to keep me from leaving. No,
Show us your card tricks.
yeah, exactly. Learned how to drum. Um, so I did. I've been talking about it on the podcast already. I did my hike on Saturday. Saturday that's just passed. So it was I'll just give you details because I don't know if I've talked about it in at length before, but it was a marathon distance hike, which is 26.4 miles. There was around
Who
2005.
who decided who decided that?
I don't know. It's some sort of it's got its origins in Greek. So we like it's I think whenever the measurements were different, is when it
So that's
was
just what it
yeah,
now that
it's
we use
like it's an
miles.
ancient yeah, it's an ancient sort of test, I think, of stamina or whatever. Um and it was say it's about 2,500 feet of elevation along the way. There was walking along rocky shore fronts, narrow paths. There was 2 miles on a beach, which was we
Ugh.
thought would be nice, but was actually brutal and really kind of sapped our energy in a fairly major way. And that came about 3/4 of the way through the hike. So I'd say, and I walk a lot. I'd say for the first half of the walk was fine. Definitely feeling a bit sore after that, but it was still completely manageable. The third or the third quarter was also not bad, tough but not bad. But the last quarter was completely brutal, and like I was really w worried that I would even be able to finish it.
Did they
Um,
have like safety checks where you could get like a ride?
there were stops along the way. There were pit stops along the way where you
Okay.
could, if you wanted to just stop, and they would give you supplies. There was medical tents there and things like that.
Okay. Okay, good.
So they were I've got to say it was very well organized, and like there was like refreshments at the start. There was like fruit at the pit stops. There was also things like bags of nuts and things like that for energy. Like I had made like buns, and I packed like a not a super heavy bag, but a heavier bag than I probably should have taken because I wasn't sure what they would have, but they were very well supplied. Um, and I told Beth there was like two Skittle stops, and they were very. I like basically like a tiny like fun size bag of Skittles, and I just like shotgunned them, and it
And then
really
chewed for an hour.
yes, it was great. It was such a great energy boost. But it's great. I did it with a friend of mine. It was lovely just like spend the day together, even though like at the end we were just kind of like trying to like motivate
Uh,
each other. He
yeah.
fortunately brought some painkillers, which kind of like kept us going for the last two or 3 miles. Were essential, I think, in keeping us going for the last 2 or 3 miles. Um, but yeah, it was. It was really great, and it's one of these things that you kind of do and I've had people congratulating me and stuff like that, and it just feels kind of surreal that I did it and it's happened and I actually managed to complete it. Um, but yeah, it was like it was. I've talked about it being sunny over the past few days. So the reason why I haven't been leaving the house is because like my legs have been in a significant amount of pain. So I have and I've been walking and I've been taking my dog out for a walk. Sasha, so let's just say her name out for a walk, and I did another dog walk today, so I'm kind of like build myself back up to where I normally am, and I'm feeling better this evening. We record on a Monday, um, so I'm hoping in the next few days I should be mostly back to normal.
Did I know we've talked about this, but for the view or listeners, like, did you train?
Um, no, like is the very I mean is the honest and accurate answer to that. Like essentially, I mean, it's a mixture of things, but I was kind of arrogant about it in terms of me thinking I walk quite a bit a day anyway. Like I would
Having
probably,
walked, like having just shadowed you, you walk all day.
yeah, I do. I like,
Yeah.
but the difference is that I don't walk continuously. Like I sometimes walk maybe about half the distance on a busy day. I would walk maybe half the distance of this walk. Um, but even if I'm doing that, it's broken up. So it's like, half an hour here, an hour here, that sort of thing. So it's really not so bad. But whenever you're doing continuously with, like, we took maybe 15, 20 minutes for break for lunch, each of the pit stops, and there was only two. We maybe took 10, maybe 15 minutes. So it wasn't like we were getting big breaks. So it's just a lot of continuous walking. So I think were I to do it again, I would start with a couple of big walks and just kind of build up. Like the other problem with that is that I don't really have a lot of time.
Yeah,
So
I know.
it would be a struggle to find the time to do like 20-kilometer walks or whatever, really. So yeah. But definitely manageable. And like I think that I I'm glad I'm like in fairly decent shape because of the dog walking, because of yoga and things like that, because I think it would be really, really brutal otherwise.
Yeah. Are you gonna do it again, do you think?
I don't
If
know.
they have it? Okay. It's
I
probably too, I'm like the day, like 2 days after, you're like,
the friend that I did it with was like, we
I
were
need
talking.
help sitting on the toilet.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like not yet. Um,
Too
like
soon.
I think honestly, even 2 days distant from it, I think I probably would, but I'd probably try and prepare a bit more for it. Like I think having done it, now you kind of, learn what you kind of need, and I think I'd be better prepared for it a second time around. Like, I think I was well prepared, but like even in terms of like I didn't consider painkillers, things
Yeah.
like that. You just don't
Yeah.
think about those things until, but again, my friend did, fortunately. So yeah, because like I think the last few miles would have been brutal otherwise. And you saw other people near the end just like limping, and like it was like everybody was coming back from battle, it was kind
Yeah.
of
You're
nuts.
like, it's not just me.
Yeah.
Good.
So it's good. So it's great. It was a great thing to be part of. I got a medal at the end of it, which I didn't know that I was getting. And it's quite a nice medal. I should show it to you actually. So it's like we we went to the causeway when you were here. And
Hmm.
because this path took us past the causeway, it's like the causeway is on the medal, and
That's
it's
awesome.
really lovely. Yeah. I was really pleased with that. So
I'm
yeah,
telling everyone the story of Finn McCool and the Causeway.
yeah, I
So
love it. It's great.
spreading the lore.
And I should also say this, I'm going to put this in my socials later on in the week. I managed to raise, or we managed to raise, I should say, because of the people that sponsored me, £850, which is insane,
Wow.
really fantastic. So that's what equivalent to about $1,000, which is
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah. That's
So yeah,
great.
you're
I
really
wonder
pleased
how
with that.
much the whole walk was able to raise.
So like apparently there was 2,000 people walking, and if each
That's a
one,
lot.
yeah, and if each one got the minimum of £250, I think somebody worked it out. It's like at least 1 million immediately. So
That's
it's
amazing.
yeah, it really is. So yeah,
Good
so
job.
thank you. So I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that it's over. Um, but yeah, it was good. It was a great thing to do.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Yes. Look at you.
I know.
You're like, nah. You said thank you.
No, thank you. Or
You let
proud.
that compliment or no, thank
I
you.
did say I did say thank you.
You
Could
did.
go
You did.
go me. Um, do you have any other crack?
I don't.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
I do, but I don't know if anyone else will find it funny.
okay.
So, so a friend of mine is in Japan right now, and he sent me this like rock star video, not rock star, it's like a musician. And he's like, do you ever like, you're like walking down a hall and there's like black squares and white squares, and you only like step on the black squares?
Yeah.
It's like a whole video of this dude like singing and dancing, and he's only walking on like the street paint.
Mm-hmm.
And so it looks silly and it's like funny. And he sent it to another friend of ours. And our friend responded, and this is like a little bit of a like Burning Man insight. He said, "Oh, it's a lot like Burning Man, they call it the playa. That's like the desert that it's
Mm-hmm.
on." It was like, my old messed up playa shuffle. I remember one morning just after sunrise heading back to camp. I was coming down from a lot of things and physically needed rest. My brain was functional and I remember, but my body wasn't having it. So it was super fucked up. I couldn't
Uh-huh.
walk 3 steps straight. My body wasn't under my control until I realized that I could fake a limp. Sorry. I could hide my inability to walk by limping. It was genius. I got a lot of genuine sympathy for my fake limp from some early risers in different camps. I'm sure I switched legs of the limp multiple times on the 2 long block walk to my tent.
I love it.
You're gonna meet this friend of mine
Okay, nice. I
when
like it.
when
That's
you
great.
come. So yeah. So
That's
yeah.
it speaks volumes about the community there at the
Yeah.
Burning Man as well. That people are
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. But also just like this particular person. Like last week we were talking about lying, and also like those people in our lives that like tell these stories that are so fantastical that they like, did that really happen? And like some people just have these lives where amazing things happen to them all the time,
Yeah,
and this friend is one of those.
I love it.
So
It reminds me of so my ex who lived in Taiwan, her dog, he was quite old at the time and he was a smart boy. Um, he would fake a limp, but he would like also do it in both legs, and it was so because he would get sympathy for it and he would get picked up and things like that, and that's what he was looking for.
like
But
I
you
don't
could
want to
see
walk
him,
anymore.
yeah, he's like, this is getting tired of limping in this leg. I'm gonna limp in the other leg now. Which is so great. I loved it. I was like, you're so smart, but not smart
Yeah,
enough
I know. So
this
yeah, it's just
time.
an example of like humans being human, and I love
Yeah,
it. So
it's great. I like it.
it has
It's good.
nothing to do with anything, but I thought it was funny.
It's good. I like it.
Uh-huh.
Do
All
we have?
right.
Do you have any occurrence for this week
Uh,
or?
check our website, new merch,
Yeah,
and we are bendypodcast.com. But it's a summer merch. So
yeah, hell yeah. So
that I've been working on.
get your summer fit,
That's right.
right?
Your summer fit.
All right. Okay, so I think we'll move on to the today's topic. So and I've been circling this for a while. I've been telling Beth I've been
Yeah.
wanting to do an episode about this for a long time.
He's been texting me about this topic now for like 5 days.
I feel like yeah, I have, and also I'm like it has also bled into our friendship in ways like, for example, when Beth came to visit me, her bed sheets, which we'll get to as we get through today's episode. So the topic of today's episode is wrestling, and the episode is called Wrestling.
Wrestling.
Wrestling. So it's essentially about wrestling, kind of the idea of modern wrestling, and I'm talking about what you think of whenever you think about the WWE and so on. So it's pro wrestling as they call it. Isn't it quite funny that like pro wrestling is the kind of stage stuff and like amateur wrestling is the actual sport?
Yes. Right.
Pretty awesome.
And I wonder what the crossover is too. Like how many amateur wrestlers become,
We can talk about
right?
that. We can talk about that. It
Okay.
does happen. It does happen a little
Okay.
bit. And
Okay.
some of them tie that into their gimmick then as well, which is quite cool.
Okay. Okay. We'll
Um,
get there. We'll get there.
we will. So, I mean, so like basically, just to set us up for this, what I'll do is, if it's, I'll talk about a little bit about my sort of relationship with it, and like where
Hmm.
where I am with it these days and things like that. So I always kind of liked the idea. So I it was on a satellite network in the UK in the early years, and I was kind of aware of it. I was aware of like Hulk Hogan, I was aware of Undertaker, things like that. But I had no real way to access these shows, so I just kind of had an awareness of it. We had local wrestlers. There was a guy called like I mean like wrestling in the UK is a whole other thing, but like they tend to be like these big, fat, tall guys. So like the two that I knew of were like Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks, and they were
Giant
like
haystacks.
yeah, there's an amazing video that I must send that you can link of Giant Haystacks and like basically slamming a local kind of celebrity, a local like news presenter who was telling him that it was fake. It's very funny. Um, but like it didn't have a lot of appeal for me. I was really interested in the American stuff. So eventually then I kind of went through high school without really encountering it that much. And then some of the friends I made in university, and some of my good friends that I made there were really into it, and we would like watch pay-per-views together, and it really got me connected into it. I was really watching it a lot. I would have watched the two sort of major WWE shows at the time, Raw and SmackDown every week. I would have watched a lot of the pay-per-views. I like this went on for me for like 3 or 4 years. Then whenever I went to North Carolina, one of the friends I made there, an Australian guy, he was really into his wrestling too. We like traveled about a bit. We like went to see some different shows and stuff. We saw a show on campus. So and then like as my life went on, I kind of like it's such a big investment if you're really into it because like the shows are like 2 or 3 hours long. So it's like a 6 hour block a week. And then if you're watching the pay-per-views, which happen every month, that's an additional like 4 hours every month, and I just kind of, as my interests kind of diversified a bit more, I just kind of gradually kind of faded away from it. But I always love it, and I think most of my connection to it now is in watching like live events. And I think for me, what I love about it is the social aspect of it. Like I don't really have the patience to watch it at home by myself anymore, but I can watch it with friends where we can just like have a bit of fun with it. Um, so yeah, so that's a very kind of light. I'm gonna dig into it a bit more as we go on, but kind of light overview of my relationship with wrestling. What about you?
So I would say similar to you, and I think that's why we connect on this so much. I we didn't really have cable
Hmm.
until we moved to Oregon, so I was probably like 9 or 10. And then it was, yeah, it was like, there were action figures of like Hulk Hogan and Undertaker and all, like that era. And I remember like Hulk Hogan being on, like Hulk Hogan is like, when you think of like that era,
100%.
it's Hulk Hogan.
Totemic. Yeah.
Totally. And like, who else could get away with those colors? But
Oh.
right. So it really was college, like, yeah, university, college. I had a couple of friends that were really into it, and I was like, what is this? And so, yeah, twice a week we would get together and get drunk and like watch, wrestling. And it's kind of like, I remember I had a summer where I watched a soap opera
Hmm.
in when I was a kid, and it's very similar. Like
Yeah.
you kind of like as you're saying, you have to. It's a commitment. You do have to watch every episode
Yeah.
because there's a story that's happening, and it's like a soap opera, right? Like there's
Storylines.
there's a
There's
storyline, and you
feuds.
want to
There.
know, yeah,
Yeah.
and like who, and things change quickly, and you've got to know who's who and
Yeah.
who's brawling with who's upset with who. And also the McMahon family, who kind of, so
Hmm.
I was hip to it when it was the WWF, the World,
Yeah.
yeah, Wrestling uh
Federation. Hmm.
Federation, but then the World Wildlife Federation sued them, and so they had to change it to the
It's
WWE.
it's even dumber than that, right?
Is
The
it?
it's basically the World Wrestling Federation went after the World Wildlife Fund and
Oh,
lost
great.
so badly that they
So
had to remove
badly.
the name. Yeah.
And probably pay all the, yeah, all the
Yeah.
lawsuit fees. I hope
Yeah.
they could afford it.
They can.
I love that you know that.
I know.
So and then yeah, same type. So I like the period that I love is really like late 90s, early 2000s. That
Yeah.
was like the golden era for me.
Me too.
But like I'm still, it's still like I keep an eye on things. I know who the big wrestlers are. And
Yeah.
it's also, and like we can get into, the wrestlers that the number of wrestlers that actually go into film careers.
Yeah.
So it's like what's great is that like I was watching them as a kid or as a young adult, and now they're still with me like in
Yeah.
life,
So true.
when I watch movies too. So yeah.
It's yeah, like I think the first thing, in terms of talking about it is that I think what a lot of people who aren't fans of it, can't get past is that it's fake, right?
Can we that I wrote down fake. Let's talk about
It's
that.
and and to me it's like, yeah, no shit. I mean, but like, so is like, 99% of everything you watch on TV. You know what I mean? I mean, it may be like scripted, because I don't think it really, I think anybody who has even a kind of cursory understanding of wrestling understands that it's scripted, events are planned, winners are planned. Um, but like what I think why that rubs people the wrong way is that while yes it's fake, while it's a pre or scripted, and organized ahead of time, is that like some of the moves they're doing, you can't
Are
fake
so
them. They're still
hella
hurting
dangerous.
people, like,
Yes.
and like you can't fake jumping through like four tables, like that's going to hurt. You know, I mean, you can do preparation to kind of learn how to fall in a certain way to minimize damage, but you're still doing damage, you know? And the reality often is that like, and there's been some really interesting like diaries in the past, like obviously because of how contracts work and because of how litigious some of these like companies can be, wrestlers are reluctant to talk about this stuff. But there's been some really like interesting diaries of wrestlers who injure themselves, but because their storyline isn't finished, need to work for another few months to finish their storyline before they can like take medical leave. It's
Yeah.
crazy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's,
So I think of it too, like when you go and see a play
yeah,
and they like, someone slaps someone else or whatever, they get in a fight and they're like using their fists and you're not like, that's so fake, right?
yeah,
This is
yeah,
this is this is they're putting on a performance.
yes,
And so um it's almost it does it disservice. They're acting, they're putting on a performance, they're
yeah,
putting on a show, but they're also risking their lives at the same time, right? So it does a
very,
complete disservice to say that it's fake.
yeah,
And just because they know who's going to win the belt at the end of the night or whatever, like doesn't mean that they're not working their asses off.
yeah. They
Half
are put,
half their half their teeth are fake because they've been knocked out,
yeah,
right?
they are putting their bodies on the line every
Yeah.
night. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? That they do
Like
this, you know?
if you don't believe us, like go watch like Mick Foley in a cage match on YouTube
Yeah, it's pretty
and see
rough.
how far he falls
Yeah, it's
on
that
the
guy.
outside of the cage onto the ground.
Yeah, it's not good. Um, and there's like, and there's such a kind of like undercurrent in wrestling of like, it's such a like fucked up sort of scene in so many ways in terms of like how wrestlers treat each other, the kind of boy clubs mentality, you know, and because of like, you know, obviously it's testosterone driven bullshit in a lot of ways, so that's going
Like
to
literally it's steroids, but
literally,
yes.
yeah. And that's going to draw in a certain type of person, a certain type of personality, you know what I mean? And like I've heard like I hear wrestlers talking, I've seen interviews of people talking about, you know, things that have happened in, you know, behind the scenes sort of stuff, and then like they tell a story that's like that's absolutely abuse, that's terrible, that's happened, and then go, but you know what? He's a great guy, and I'm like, he doesn't sound like a great guy. He sounds like a terrible guy.
Yeah.
Um, but they're so like conditioned into thinking that this is normal. This, you know, kind of crazy wrestling world is normal. You know, it's nuts. But like, you know, I mean, to me, you know, putting all that aside, it's like, you know, I'm sure there's lots of actors who aren't great people as well. So I don't think it's too dissimilar in that way. But like I think, you know, in terms of as a spectator to it, what I love about it more than anything else is like completely engaging in the fiction of it. And like if you
Yeah.
do, you have so much fun. That's why I love live events so much. Like
I have
more
never been to a live
oh
wrestling event, and I'm like so jealous that you've been to so many.
chef, we go over because there's some great like
That's what I'm like literally mind gardening to see
there's some
if you
great
come here.
LA federate or wrestling promotions, so we could maybe see if we could get tickets to some of them
Yep,
because I know there's some
yep,
good ones.
yep, yep. Not
Because
that I'm looking right now.
yeah, no, not at all, wink. But like, because I love it more than anything, like, because there's some local, there's a Dublin based wrestling I always forget the word um federation. That's not the word I'm looking for, but people know what I'm talking about. That works out of Dublin, that puts on shows up
Mhm.
here, and they're really
Okay.
fantastic. And like, um, it's so we go to those shows every now and again. That's most of my connection to wrestling these days, and they get in big names who are like touring and like, you know, so because some wrestlers are kind of signed up with various sort of organizations, some that kind of are more free floating and kind of like
Hmm.
get pulled in every now and again.
Hmm.
And but my favorite thing more than anything to do is like, you know, in pre-scripted moments, sometimes, you know, they'll be having a fight and then somebody will come down to the ring and distract the referee is to be like, ref, what are you doing? Come on, turn around. And
He's got a
he's
chair.
got a
He just
chair. What are you
hit
doing,
him.
Beth?
You're not
Beth?
even noticing.
Come
Yeah.
on, you're not doing your job. And I was there with my friend recently, and his daughter he's getting his daughter into it, and she's like 8 years old. And one of the guys came down who's a bad guy, and he was clearly talking a lot of crap to the audience. And she's like, "You're rubbish," and I was like, "Yeah, you're rubbish." And he like heard us and just looked down at us, and it was just like, "Oh, this is magic. This is everything I want." Um, so yeah, there's something really special about it.
Um, what's happening here, it's like UFC is becoming
Yeah,
a
here
bigger
too.
thing. And it's like that's what's happening. And like, there's a big match in Vegas, and like so much of that is performance. And I'm not okay, I'm going there. I'm gonna
Well, you're gonna get in trouble for
compare.
this
I'm
one.
comparing, I know. But like so much of, not to say they're not literally kicking the shit out of each other with the UFC, but so much of it is performative also.
Hmm.
Like all of the, the YouTube videos and the smack talking before
Yes.
the actual fight, it's like they're, they don't hate each other that much. They're probably
No.
going out for beers after or whatever, right? Like so it's like
I,
they're
I
very similar.
I think it's got more pronounced. And I mean, you've seen some wrestlers have tried their hand, have tried to go over to UFC. It hasn't worked out, I don't think, for any of them
No,
really that well. But
no.
like they've all tried it. The only one I think who's had any sort of success is Brock Lesnar because he is like
Yeah.
literally one of his nicknames in WWE was the genetic freak because he's like what 6'6" and he's like
Yeah.
enormous. He's just
Yeah.
built like a brick shit house.
And he's still around.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I think like I think yeah, UFC has definitely kind of eaten into that, but I think, there's still something because of like how UFC has like morphed and changed over the way, and there's a very kind of uniform way of like there's a certain set of skills that kind of fighters need to have these days. So fights have become not samey, but there's like a pattern to them, really, like a kind of a
Hmm.
logical way of taking that down. So like,
Hmm.
whereas like in wrestling, people could just decide to do like a friggin',
Yeah.
double backflip
Yeah.
into a splash,
Yeah.
it's pretty rad.
Yeah. So, um, I was thinking through like who are like from like the era that we were really, really into it. Like obviously Brock Lesnar, Triple X, The Rock, Mick Foley, Hulk Hogan, Booker T, Stone Cold Steve
Hmm.
Austin. Who else? Like
So
Stephanie McMahon,
yeah, so
right?
the
I
ones.
remember I remember her first wrestling match.
Oh really? Yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
remember that. So that's
And
what
they
it
were
would have
like,
been when I was
and they were
watching
like,
too.
and my daughter, and I'm like, that's 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 when Nepo Babies was like
It's
in
true.
the early, yeah.
But Shane, his son Shane, really kind
Mhm.
of to fight that out, put himself through some brutal friggin' punishment, like which was kind of nuts. And we always kind of got a lot of respect for Shane because like he gets thrown off like the Titantron through tables. The Titantron is essentially the massive screen that they show wrestlers' entrance videos on. So he has taken some big hits, and like as fucked up as that is what it takes for wrestling fans to respect you. How badly will you damage yourself for our entertainment? That's how much we're gonna respect you for that.
Right.
So like so from back then, like I was a big Hardy Boys fan,
Oh my
because
gosh. Yes.
so like my friends still tease me about being a Matt Hardy mega fan. My one of my friends for my 40th birthday made me a Matt Hardy body pillow, which is essentially a Matt Hardy t-shirt stuffed. Uh,
Why did you not show this to me?
yeah, because I showed Beth a number of kind of insane things, and it was probably only a fraction of the insane things that I have in my house. Um, including a giant kind of picture of my head with me surrounded by other heads.
That's
Uh,
art. That's
that is
modern
art.
art
That's
or
smarter art.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, so yeah, that's so I was always a big fan of him. So Another person from that era, and something that kind of ties into what you were talking about earlier, is Kurt Angle, who was
Hmm.
an actual Olympic wrestler, and
Yeah.
they kind of used that as his gimmick because he came out with his like
With all of his
medals on.
medals.
Yeah, yeah, he had like 5 medals, and like he
Yeah.
would like use that to talk trash to everybody about how he was so much better than everybody else. He was
Yep.
such a good, his character was fantastic, like, and he was such a good in-ring presence. Like he was so talented, obviously, but like
Mhm.
then there has definitely been a bit of other crossover. Like I'm trying to
I forgot that he was an actual Olympic
yeah, he genuinely
athlete.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the gimmick. I totally forgot about him.
Yeah, he was great. I
And
love him.
but he would walk out and it was like, oh, he's got his medals on, and he's got his like USA like
Yeah.
outfit and everything.
Yeah, he's amazing. I like I
So
there
good,
was
so easy to hate.
so he was perfect. Like so the I watched for my birthday there. I think I talked about watching some wrestling on a recent episode, and I really wanted to watch some Hardy Boys, like a hardcore match against the Dudley Boys. And the pay-per-view we ended up watching starts with a Kurt Angle. So Kurt Angle had been in the WWE for like a year, 2 years, was undefeated, like he hadn't lost a match. And they were launching this new guy, a guy called Taz. And Kurt Angle comes out and goes, I don't know who my opponent is tonight, but I want you all to give them a good winning, cheer and give them, I'm sure they'll do a great job and I'll give them a fair fight and all this sort of stuff. I like Taz just comes out and fucking destroys him and wins the match. And it was such a shock. And it was such a great way to introduce this new kind of presence. Like, as it turned out, that guy lasted maybe 6 months before getting an injury that I think sidelined his wrestling career for the rest of his life, which is all too often the way, unfortunately, with wrestling. But it
Yeah.
was such an incredible debut, like it really was. Um, but yeah, it's. I think we talked about putting lives in their line. That hardcore match that I watched after that with the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys, like the how the winner of that match was decided was when both members of a tag team went through a table. Brutal, absolutely
Brutal.
brutal. And this was whenever they were taking actual chair shots. They then like started like getting softer chairs, I guess. But it was just one of the Dudley boys came out after that, many kind of like years later in an interview about that match, said that he got a concussion about 5 minutes in and still had to keep wrestling, and he remembers
Yeah.
nothing about that happening. And it's like
Wow.
it's not good. It's not good.
No. I wonder how many end up with like, because with American football, like
SCTs.
CTE, yeah,
Yeah, like so just I suppose to like
or like missing spleens or whatever.
yeah,
I'm
I
laughing, but it's not funny.
no like the one like the oh, well I'll not stay on this one too long, but like Chris Benoit is such a good example of
Yeah,
that, of like
yeah.
they think that probably he'd been impacted by something like that, and his story is so tragic, um like what
China
happened.
too.
China too, yeah. So like it's just I don't know, it as and I think that's the big problem with like calling it fake, is because it kind of lessens, like, don't get me wrong, it's fucked up that these guys do this and go through this, but they do, so to then call that fake is kind of a bit insulting to their craft, I guess.
Well, also, it's like there is an with American football and CTE and how that and I'm not trying to sidetrack us, but like there is now an entire way of taking care of these athletes
Hmm.
based on the fact that we're trying to avoid CTE. And it's like if we continue to call WWE fake, then they're not going to get the care that they
Yeah,
need, essentially, right? Because, well, you're this this hobby or whatever.
walk it off, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's not gonna, not only does it just doesn't serve anybody.
Yeah, that's yeah,
So
it's
it's so
scary.
real. So can you just tell me what it's like to be at a real live match?
Yeah, I mean, like, it differs wildly. I'm going to talk a little bit about a few different experiences I've had.
Okay.
So like I guess I have been to some really big events, and I've been to some big events in London and things like that, some big WWE events, and they are like on a different scale altogether. I was in was in New York maybe about 5, 6 years ago, and went to Madison Square Garden for a big
Oh
event that was
my,
also incredible. Yeah. Um, I know that was a Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor is a really kind of big name, and New Japan Wrestling. So it was like some really big sort of indie wrestlers were there. It was really incredible. Um, so like but like I have also been. So whenever I was in University of North Carolina for 6 months, me and a friend traveled around a bit, and we saw some like indie wrestling events,
mhm.
and they were kind of wild, like because they are there's almost like more of an urge to prove themselves in those shows a lot of the time. And I still see that like in the Belfast shows I go to. Like there's only 200 people there, but that doesn't stop them from doing crazy shit, like big moves, like big impactful moves. Um, it's just they know so many of them, it's like go hard or not at all, But like the ECW event I went to is probably my most memorable one, just in terms of like the pure theater of it, the kind of like the athleticism, the kind of like as I say, indie wrestlers in particular really go hard, and I still remember how like strong those matches were, and how like you heard the slaps and you were just like yikes.
Yeah.
But the one I remember most clearly was there was a character in ECW called New Jack, and he actually had he had a tattoo with like a gun and like bullets on the wherever, like, or bullets at the side of it, and each of those bullets represented somebody he had killed,
Oh
either
my
as a
gosh.
bounty hunter or something. Like he had some sort of reason why he had done this, and he was a scary dude. But his ring entrance was he would walk in with like a shopping cart with all these weapons inside of it, but like people were in the ring were just like it took him so long to walk in, and like people in the ring just standing petrified, and they had to like act petrified for like 5 minutes
For like
while
five
this guy
minutes.
slowly walked this cart in, threw all his weapons in, and then came in and just destroyed them. It was just, I don't know, there's just the theater of that was really, really funny. Um, my other one, and like one of my favorites is, so I have a friend who's a wrestler, and I've been to see her wrestle a few times. I went to see her wrestle in London just before the pandemic, actually. So wrestlers have like a character. There's a thing called kayfabe, which is like you're keeping the character up. So like you don't want to like break kayfabe if at all possible whenever like there's fans and stuff around. So like I know her as a friend, and I went up to her as in her wrestling character, and she did not break a character, and I fucking loved it. It made me so happy. She's like, "Who are you? What are you?" And I was just like, we just had this wee exchange, and it was just like it thrilled me so much. Um, so yeah, I don't as I say, it's just it is there is it is truly unique in terms of that, and that's why I will never walk away from it entirely, because there is nothing else like it in my opinion. And
Mhm.
the energy of like especially if you've got a great crowd who's engaged, who gets it, or who's at least willing to go along with it, it's like nothing else on earth.
Agreed. Yeah. It's, I remember, I mean, there's also like, kind of like you were saying, there are like certain people that watch it and certain people that don't, or whatever. And like, I just don't subscribe to that, you know? I just, I love the theater of
Yes.
it. I love the reality of it. I love everything about it. It's kind of like when you were describing in another episode of the pod, like why you read graphic novels and like how much like they're just complete, it's like its own art form, and it's the same with this.
Yeah,
It's like it's its own thing that,
it is.
yeah.
Um, I also love like so like in the wrestling parlance, there's like good guys and bad guys. Good guys are called baby faces, bad guys are called
Mhm.
heels. And I kind of love how people get heel energy over, and also baby face energy, but heel like a good heel is spectacular. And And a favorite memory of a recent sort of Belfast show was a guy came out and his whole thing was that like he was English and he was better than all of us and he was of a higher class than all of us and he was letting us know and he was like,
Oh,
yeah. So when he and it did an amazing one and it made me so happy. So he was like, I heard recently that Belfast is the biggest sort of housing benefit, biggest percentage of like housing benefit claimees. So that's people who are like too poor to afford houses,
yep.
and so the biggest amount of housing benefit claimees, and the crowd started chanting, "We're number one," in response, and it was like, yes.
That's like, that is the difference between your brand of humor and the fact that we don't have a sense of humor as a country.
Yeah,
Like, that's hilarious.
it
And we'd
is.
be like,
Yeah, yeah,
boo.
yeah, yeah. No, it was always
You're
made
right.
me so
So funny.
made me
We're
so
number
happy.
one.
Oh, so good.
All
Well,
right. Did you know
mhm,
that Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle is the
mhm.
only WrestleMania event with people using their real names?
Interesting.
Yeah.
It
Well,
doesn't surprise me, honestly, when I think about a lot of wrestlers. Like it's very, very few use their actual names. That's funny.
yeah, the only two.
Ay, ay, ay.
I thought you'd think
What
that
you
was
could because you
interesting.
have other wrestling facts. I think I've got most of my stuff, and then we can. But yes, go. What other ones you got for me?
Uh, uh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I have one that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Snooki is undefeated at
I
WrestleMania, one to
love it.
zero.
Amazing. Good for
John,
Snooki.
I know, right?
Uh-huh.
I love that she's still here and her,
Yep.
yep. So John Cena only lost cleanly 3 times in 2007,
Mm-hmm.
one being to Kevin Federline.
Oh no. Not the K-Fed.
The K-Fed. Um, Mick Foley has never won the hardcore title. He
That's
was
great.
given the first hardcore title by Vince, but no, I never actually won.
So my friend gave me a gift, and it was an ironic gift for my birthday of a
Uh-huh.
wrestling figure, and it was Gronk, Gronkowski, the football
Yes,
player,
yes.
because he wrestled briefly, and I'm like, oh, thanks so much, dude. Now it's
Did
still
he
up.
really?
He
I
really
missed
did.
that.
It was, I think, no, it arrived. I got it after you left, so yeah, you didn't see
Okay.
it. It's a new one.
Okay. That's
Um,
hilarious.
but I thought that was very funny. Like I think, I've got something, or we've something we talked about that we're going to use to kind of end off the episode. But I just
Mhm.
before we completely move on, I
Yes,
just want to address the fact that there are big problems with wrestling in a lot of ways. Like, and it really leans into a lot of like broad stereotypes. I mean, like, you think about like the 90s, a lot of like there was a black character who it had like a witch doctor gimmick and that then changed to him being a pimp, right? And his pimp was so he was Papa Shango, I believe, and then became the
yeah.
Godfather, both of
Hmm.
which deeply problematic. You
Hmm.
have, um, somebody who is from the Middle East and he was the Iron Sheik. You know what I mean? And
Yes,
it really leans into these things in
yes.
damaging ways. And even today, like we have people from Northern Ireland who are Kings of the North. And I think I've either sent you videos of this or I've told you about it, but they have so on the Ulster flag, it's the red hand. So they wear like these red gloves and they like hold their hands up almost like a Nazi salute with these red gloves on. And it's like, dudes,
Oh my
the
gosh.
vocals in this are the vocals, the visuals in this are not good. So it's so there's definitely major problems with this, all of it, but again, I think very sadly there are problems with also a lot of forms of entertainment, like behind the scenes stuff, but I think it would be remiss not to kind of mention that.
Agreed.
Um,
And also, um, the McMahon family in general is
yes,
always,
they're monsters.
they're
Vince,
always in trouble. Vince is, yeah, I think he's no longer associated with
he's been removed recently, but he's trying to get back. He was removed, came back, and then was removed again.
because of
So
sexual assault
yep,
claims. So yeah, so that there isn't, as with, it seems all, especially things that have to do with like money and power.
yep,
And this is a
Weird.
big business. Yeah,
Weird,
right?
weird the
Woo,
psychopaths tend to
I
gravitate towards
know.
those things,
It's
like,
true.
yeah.
It's true.
Or
So
sociopaths
yeah,
or whatever. Yeah.
right, right, right.
But yeah, so one of the
Thank you for
things,
bringing that up.
yeah, I
Can I
just
just
wanted.
also say that
Hmm,
um I drove by I was driving around town the other day and I passed a marquee that actually says midget wrestling.
I believe it. I can't believe
Yeah,
that that's still happening in some ways, but I
yeah,
knew that it was a thing. But yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah, that's kind of grim.
So
I mean, like I think about like that, Wolf of Wall Street, whenever he had the midgets and they were like launching them at
the
these big.
human Velcro.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
It's fuck yeah. We we think as a species we have grown, but
Right.
in actuality,
Yeah.
we're not that much different. So,
Right.
um, I said to Beth at the start of this, it's an idea of a friend of mine that what we should do is come up with wrestling characters of our own. Also, maybe think about some tag team ideas if we were to be in a tag team. Um, this, to be clear, is something that has been a running thing in my head for 20, 25 years. Easy.
You're
I
like,
have,
I've already got mine. I've already
yeah,
got
yeah.
mine.
Like, honestly, I went through so many versions of this in the past 20 years. This is just my current one that I'm working
This
with.
is like as of right now today.
Yeah, this
Okay.
one, and you'll understand why this one is only like fairly new within the past 4 or 5 years, for a very obvious reason once I start talking about it.
Okay.
Do you want me to do my solo first? You do your solo,
Yes.
and then we'll talk about our
Yes.
tag
And then
team
we'll do
ideas.
our,
Okay.
yes.
All right. So my current solo character idea is, I mean, I'm using my own name, right? So if I get to WrestleMania, that might be a new record maker. Is the
Okay.
enlightened one, Andy Young? I think it flows quite well, right?
The enlightened one, Andy
It's yeah,
Young.
yeah, yeah. It's got that, like, it's almost got like a rhythmic sort of a saying. So my entrance music is called Nama Kirtan. It's a 9 minute long yogic chant. When that was playing, I would force the audience to listen to all of that before I come out. I would come out in like the last 30 seconds or something like that
And
to
they'd be
like
like,
a chorus
everyone's
of,
looking terrified for
yeah,
9 minutes.
yeah. They're terrified, but also really pissed off that they've had to wait this long. So because that character is a heel because like how I see it is that I would come in and I'd be like, guys, why are we fighting? No, let's just like spend some time being one with ourselves. And like in the wrestling world, that would be such a sin, being like
You'd be like full
anti-violence.
lotus.
Yeah, exactly, right. Until like
Like, hold
some
on, must meditate.
yeah, so I'm like standing in the middle of the ring calling for science and then like silence, sorry, rather, and then somebody comes in behind me and like just suplexes me and gets like a big cheer or whatever. Um, like any sort of quality heel, I would preach one message, but I would be very different. Like, I would be the sort of guy that as soon as somebody's back was turned, I would like slam them into the ground or whatever.
Mhm.
With that in mind, my finishing move is called the Palm of Wisdom, which is basically
Uh-huh.
a talk to the
From,
hand.
oh my God. From
Oh, I lifted that.
no, I think you might have from Kung Fu Hustle.
Kung Fu Hustle. Yes, I think you're
Do
right.
you
Damn.
remember?
Yes, I do. Yes, it is because that's one of the techniques he uses.
Yeah.
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 Nuts.
Is it, I don't know if it's called Palm of Wisdom, but it's something like
It
that,
is
the
something like
Holy
that. Yeah,
Palm or
it come from
something.
the book
And
that
it's
he
like,
has.
whoa. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I like it.
So mine is it's essentially like a talk to the hand whenever somebody's like, telling me that my ideas are not good, and then I would just like put my hand on their face and
Grab their faces.
push them into the ground. Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
So that's my solo character. What do you
Okay.
got?
So I've been obsessed with I think maybe it's because of summer solstice, but the Greek myth about Persephone
Mm-hmm.
and like Hades and this concept, this
Mm.
is, I'm going deep, sorry, but this concept of the path traveled between the underworld and the above world, right? And I found out that and I can't remember what the name for going down into the underworld, but coming out of the underworld, like because Persephone would have to do this every 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's why we have seasons. So coming out of the underworld, it's called Anabasis.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my name, is
Nice.
Anabasis.
I like
And
it.
then because it's like my favorite song ever. I would walk out to my entrance music is the Terminator 2 theme song.
Amazing.
Like I
That's so
want
good.
like metal, like yeah,
Yeah, I love it.
and then I'm like coming out of the underworld, right?
Yeah, I
And like
love it. Like it's like
bringing,
dark visuals in your video and things like that.
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yes. So it's like I'm kind of evil, but also like covered in flowers or
yeah. Okay.
something. I don't know. And then my finishing move, I actually stole this from Tekken 3.
I love it. Uh-huh.
So it's the rolling death cradle.
Uh-huh. Oh
So I
yeah,
would
yeah.
basically like flip somebody around and then just like roll them and roll them and roll them until they would get like dizzy and barf
Amazing.
back down to the
Oh, it's a
underworld.
king move. I remember it. Yeah,
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 it's
yeah,
totally,
yeah.
it's king.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
amazing.
good
So like,
job pulling that out of your mind garden.
yeah,
So
thank
yeah,
you.
that's as of right now, this moment, that's what I would be. I
I
would
love it.
not use my real name.
No. I say I was trying to like I kind of like this whole sort of um yogic aspect. I don't see any wrestlers doing that, so like I was just kind of
Mhm.
excited that with that whenever I was thinking about mine. Um,
Right.
sorry before that's what I was getting. I was so you're talking about Hades, Persephone. So
Mhm.
it's interesting because my sort of recent years connection with that is there was a video game come out called Hades. Surprise, surprise, it's a video game, and it
Mhm.
was about because it was about Zagreus. You play the character Zagreus, who was like trying to fight through to meet to like his father in order to meet Persephone because I think they were his parents. So that has taught me a lot about those sort of myths and underworld and whatnot and the kind of
It's
layers
super cool.
it is.
It's also like, because I was researching this, I was like, what is that? What is it called? Like when you're coming in and out, there's got to be like a name of the path, right? And there
Yeah,
actually is. And I didn't know that. I found that out this morning.
it's a good one.
That's not true. 4 days ago when I was doing this
Sure.
research, but this concept of like underworld and passage to the underworld and like paying someone, I think it's like not Chiron, is it Chiron?
Yeah,
I
Charon.
can't remember in Greek Chiron in
The
Greek
coins, the
myths,
coins to take you
the
to ferry you
coins,
across.
yeah,
Yeah,
to River Styx. But that's like it's in this concept is it goes all across different times and areas, and it's a common myth, I'll
it's
say.
cool. It's yeah,
Yeah.
it is, and it's a lot of interesting. There's a lot of interesting sort of characters in there. I mean, the Greek gods in particular, are kind of
Yeah.
is it's Greek gods that they're like a interesting bunch. They're horny.
They really are.
They're
They're just
horny
heaven sent.
AF. Yeah,
Yeah,
they are.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And they're like everyone's a half god,
yeah,
half
yeah, yeah, yeah,
human,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're putting their dick in everything.
Yep, yep. Basically Zeus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Can't help himself. That guy. Um. Okay. Um, so the tag team that
What's
I've
your
cooked
idea
tag
for you
team
and
that I've
I?
cooked up for us is Los Vatas Locos. Um
Ooh.
our entrance music and this is a lift, but I really like it so much. My friend suggested this for me if I was never in a tag team, and I really want to use it. Is the song "Why Can't We Be Friends"?
Why can't we
We
be
be friends, right?
friends?
Because it's just such a
Why
funny
can't
thing
we be? Yeah, I like
to
it.
come down to a wrestling match too.
Uh-huh.
Um, our finisher would be the hug. So like we would like be like, oh, come on, guys,
Oh,
can't we just have a hug? And then we would give somebody a hug, and you would give them a hug from the front, and I would give them a hug from the back, and then I
you
would
would
give you a
like,
wink, and you would release, and then I would German suplex them.
that's good.
Right?
That's good.
Okay.
Okay. So mine was, I went with like the theme of two.
Mhm.
So I picked so our ring name would be Sweet and Sour.
Mhm.
And I'll let people decide which which would be which.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I know which would be which.
Yeah.
Our music would be Iron Maiden's 2 Minutes to Midnight.
Uh,
And then our finishing move would be the double flying elbow drop a la Randy
ooh.
Savage.
So like
Yeah,
coming from like opposite ends.
both sides. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
good. Okay, I like it. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I we just need to essentially we need to like contact a wrestling federation and see
Yeah,
who will sign us. Basically,
yep,
that's all there is to
yep.
do now.
I think we're ready. I mean,
Perfect.
you did your 26.2 miles
We
walking, and
did, we did. And I
I
think,
definitely walked the dog this morning, so
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
ready
I
for a
think
full
getting
bore
getting into a wrestling career, starting our wrestling career in our 40s is the
in our
best.
40s.
Is the best time to do it, right? Love it, love it, love it. So that was good. Yeah, I mean, like I thought that was fun. Do you have anything else you want to talk about
I'm
before we
trying to
wrap
see if
up?
there's any more. Uh,
Oh yeah, well, one thing I didn't mention before we move on completely is that so I teased it up top was whenever Beth came over to visit me,
oh, right.
um I didn't have many single bed covers. My mom goes, "Oh, I've got one," and she showed me a Stone Cold Steve Austin bed cover, and I was like, "Perfect." This is
So
definitely the one we're using.
I walked into, yeah, the room, and like there's a twin bed, and it's got Stone Cold Steve Austin's face and like
It's,
beer cans.
I,
It's like
I,
still cold, and then the pillowcase just says
it
hell
does.
yeah all over it. And you're like, you can tell Mike this is the man you're sleeping with tonight.
Oh, that's so good. And then Mike had the perfect response was, I think I saw that guy in Remoted today.
Yes.
So good. Um,
Which is pretty
I,
accurate.
but like, you know what's funny is that like I looked at that whenever I was putting it on, and I realized that my mom had bought that because it was trademark 2001. I was 22 years old when
You
my
were.
mom bought that for
I
me.
Yeah, I looked at it and I was like, when did you get this? And you're like, I think college.
Yeah. And I mean, like, obviously, I was embarrassed, but also was like, yeah, of course I want it, but like,
Yeah.
you can see it.
Yeah. And she kept it.
She did keep it. Yeah, she's very funny. So yeah, um, but yeah, so I think so. We move on to
Yeah.
wrapping things up. That was a nice chat.
Yeah.
Um,
It was great. I'm glad we did this.
Me too. So what's been bringing you joy this week, Beth?
Dave Grohl.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm reading his book.
mm-hmm.
Did I tell you this already? I'm reading a paper book that's paper that I
Yeah,
hold with
you
my
did, and we were
hands.
horrified, and I was
Did I already
mortified.
talk about this?
No, I don't know if you talked about it in length, but you talked about you were reading that. Yeah,
Okay, so I'm really, okay, if I've already talked about it, I'm not going to talk about it again. Did I talk about it last week?
I think you may have, or a couple of episodes ago,
All right, I'm
possibly,
gonna
but you
find.
may be further on now, so you might have
I
other
am.
insights.
I'm probably almost done with it.
Yeah,
He's really a good storyteller.
yeah,
Hence the name of the book,
yeah,
Storyteller. And I was like, well, that's patting yourself on the back,
yeah,
like right off the bat, because that's how I approach things, apparently. But it's really good. His stories are good. Just like talking about what it's like to live in a Dodge van with like
yeah.
five other dudes with all your gear. And they did like like he was in a band in the early days. He lied. This is how we got his start. He lied and was like, he said he was 19, he was 17, he was still in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And this band needed a drummer, and they were already established, and he was already a fan. And they were like, well, what songs can you play? And he was like, all of them. And they sat down and they played them all, and they were like, well, you're our guy. And so he was actually like, Mom, like, I think I want to drop out of high school. And she was just like, basically like,
Okay.
don't don't be too messy out there, just like, and
Wow.
his what I love, I think the most is the relationship he has with his mother
Mm.
and how supportive she's been of him, like
Yeah.
through all, because it's like he's been through a lot, he's done a lot, and like the entire way she's just been like, yep, okay, showing up at his shows and reprimanding him once he's like a parent, and and his kid gets hurt or does something bad, and she's like, now you understand how
Yeah.
hard it is. It's just like the sweetest thing. So
He seems like a good dude, and I think probably he had good upbringing in that way. So I suppose that doesn't
yeah,
surprise me, And I think
yeah.
that feels like good parenting, and that I think I've done a good job of raising you. I trust you if this is what you
Hmm.
think's the right thing to do,
Hmm.
So I
But
think that's
like,
nice.
also, like, what parent of a 17-year-old would be like, sure, go on a 3-month
So true.
tour
Yeah.
and like just go live your life and like this is your dream, try it,
Yeah,
and not like you need you need to go to college or whatever, or like go
yeah.
to trade school. It's just like that. I don't know.
It's pretty unusual, but also rad, I think. Yeah, I
It
mean, I
is.
suppose it could easily have gone wrong too,
It
but like,
could,
yeah,
but then I wonder if more parents said yes, like what would exist in the
this
world?
is so true. I know,
Yeah.
I know.
So,
More joy and light. It's like
yeah.
the Great Simpsons joke where Lionel Hutz, the lawyer, somebody asks him, "Can you imagine a world without lawyers?" And it's just all these people of different races and creeds, like holding hands and like singing songs. And it cuts back to him, and he's like, "What a nightmare."
What
Um,
about you? What's bringing you joy?
so I just, to do with my hike again, my friend that I did it with, I don't really get to see him too often these days because I'm so bloody busy all the time. So it was lovely, despite the pain, to just, hang out with him for a day, just chat for a day, and just like not have to worry about the outside world for like a day. So it was just lovely in that regard. So it was a nice, you know, I certainly don't think I could have done it without him, honestly. So I am very grateful to have just been able to spend the day with him. So it was nice.
You have good friends, I will
Yeah, I do.
say.
I do. I
Yeah,
do.
that's
So yeah,
great.
that was really bringing me joy this week. So yeah. Um, can you do
Yes.
where people can find us, please?
And so yes, please check us out at bendypodcast.com. We're also on all of the different social platforms. Um, we've got we do video shorts, so all of the little
Yep.
funny things that so you can check us out on YouTube. And we also have we are we videotape this. You can actually watch us
Yep.
drinking water,
Yeah, lots of.
lots of
It's
water, and check out Andy's t-shirts that he wears every week.
yeah, it is water and not just a pint glass of room
Straight
temp
straight alcohol,
vodka.
right?
Yeah. I promise.
So bendypodcast.com or yeah. And thank you. I do also want to thank folks for um getting reviews on random platforms that I didn't even realize. I Googled us the other day and like went and looked, and thank you for all the nice reviews and the
Yeah,
5 stars. We appreciate it.
we
So
really do. Thank you,
yeah.
folks. Okay, okay. So in that case, folks, we would like to remind you, as always, to stay bendy.
Bendy.
Killer.
Palm of wisdom.
Yeah, Palm was a rolling. That
Okay.
was a rolling death cradle.
Right.
Stay bendy. All right, folks.
All right. Love you
Bye. We
guys.
love you.
Bye.
Bye. Good job. That was good.
Yeah, midget wrestling. I drove by
Wild.
on Main Street, 5 minutes from my house. I'm like, oh man, if Andy was here, we'd probably go to this.
Yeah, probably. I'm trying to remember the LA ones that are supposed to get, I think Progress is